Welcome to the Women Mastering Midlife podcast, the podcast where we throw out the outdated narratives about aging and menopause, and we embrace this time of our lives. We embrace this chapter with power and clarity and an understanding that it's time to reinvent ourselves. So today we're diving into something that I know so many of you have been feeling deep in your bones. It's about darn time we rebrand menopause. For too long, menopause has been packaged as the beginning of the end. The cultural story tells us that we become invisible, undesirable, irrelevant. I'm here to tell you that's complete BS. The truth, this is when we wake up to who we really are. This is when we're going to shed the expectations, the pleasing, the worrying about what others are going to think of us. This is when we stop waiting for permission to take up space, to speak our minds, and to live for ourselves. Because here's the thing, for much of our lives, our hormones, especially estrogen, played a significant role in our behavior. Did you know that estrogen encourages us to nurture, to attract a mate, and to prioritize others? But when estrogen declines in menopause, so does our biological drive to please. And that, my friends, is freedom. So let's start by addressing the elephant in the room, the outdated menopause narrative. For generations, menopause has been framed as the beginning of the end. But what if we were looking at it all wrong? What if menopause is actually an awakening, a time when you can take all of your experience, your wisdom, your skills, and use them in ways you never could before? Look around. Midlife women are running companies, shifting careers, building businesses, and stepping into leadership in ways that past generations never had the chance to do. The truth is, menopause is the season when we stop asking permission and start owning our space. Realizing that we have nothing to prove and everything to gain, we step into leadership, whether that's in business, in our families, and in our own lives. The cultural messaging would have us believe we're slowing down, but in reality, we are just getting started. Did you realize there's some science behind your new power? Let's talk about the biology behind why menopause actually liberates us. For years, estrogen has been influencing our choices, making us more empathetic, more accommodating, and yes, more attuned to what others think. It's an evolutionary trait designed to help us form relationships, care for our families, and create social bonds. But in menopause, when estrogen naturally declines, so does that biological pull to prioritize everyone else above ourselves. I'm sure you're thinking about it in your head. This is why you may suddenly find yourself less interested in people pleasing. We see all those Instagram reels about giving 0 Fs, more confident in setting boundaries around people, our job, our time, feeling an urge to strip away what no longer serves you, whether that's relationships, careers, or outdated self-images. This isn't a loss, this is a rebirth. It's nature's way of saying it's time to focus on you now. And this is exactly why so many women in midlife are launching businesses, stepping into executive roles, writing books, and creating an impact. The biological drive we have to nurture everyone else takes a back seat and we step into our own power. So what does this actually mean for your life? Let's break it down. So let's talk about relationships, right? Maybe your kids are grown or more independent, and suddenly your role as a caregiver isn't consuming your identity. That can feel really unsettling at first. But what if it's actually an invitation, an opportunity to redefine your marriage, your friendships, your relationship with yourself? This is the time to reconnect with who you are beyond being a mother, a partner, an employee. What do you want? What lights you up? In career and purpose, many women in midlife find themselves asking, is this all there is? Maybe you're in a career that no longer fulfills you. Maybe you want to start something new, but society tells you that reinvention at this age is too late. Well, guess what? That's inaccurate. Some of the most successful women didn't hit their stride until midlife. Vera Wang didn't start creating dresses until 40. Julia Child didn't publish a cookbook until she was 50. And today, women in midlife are starting businesses at record rates. More women than ever are becoming CEOs, entrepreneurs, and leaders. We're seeing women rewrite the roles of success on their terms. This is your time to build something for yourself, whether it's a new career, a creative passion, or a life that's deeply fulfilling. And when it comes to self-expression and style, let's talk about the male gaze. For so long, we've been conditioned to dress, behave, and present ourselves in a way that is attractive to men. Even if we didn't realize it, that influence was there. But in menopause, that script flips. Now it's about dressing for you, for comfort, for confidence, for power. If you want to look sexy, it's for yourself. Wear what you love. Cut your hair if you want. Go gray if you want. Heck, wear sequins to the grocery store if it makes you feel amazing. This is your time, your era for self-expression without apology. So in summary, menopause, it isn't a crisis. It's a revolution. It's the time when we step fully into our wisdom, when we stop living for external validation, when we finally give ourselves permission to design the life we actually want. This is the era of saying no without the guilt, prioritizing your own pleasure, your health, and your happiness, letting go of what no longer serves you. We are going to fully own our voices, our desires, and our presence in this world. We're going to step into leadership, whether it's in business, activism, creativity, or in our community. So here's my challenge to you. What old beliefs about menopause are you ready to throw out? What excites you about this next chapter? I want to hear from you. I want to start this conversation. The Women Mastering Midlife community is here to talk about all this. We're rewriting the menopause story together. If you love this episode, share it with another woman who needs to hear this message. Let's spread the word that menopause isn't something to fear, it's something to celebrate. And don't get me wrong, having connection with your family, with your spouse, with your community, it doesn't mean that in menopause, when you're thinking of yourself, you're just going to let all that go and become this self-centered, self-important person. You still are intrinsically the nurturing, loving, caring person that you've always been. But you get to step into finding things for yourself. I am the first person to stand in line of the guilty of letting every part of me go when I became a wife, and especially when I became a mother. And even my service centered around my family. How could I support my husband developing his practice and creating his legacy in his job? How can I support my children and be a presence in their school? I was PTSA president. I chaired a gala. I was on the school board. I did all the things. And while I found those fulfilling and while I appreciated the connection that it brought with my community and with my family, there's parts of me that went silent. There's parts of me that took a back seat to what I needed to do to promote my family, to promote my husband, to promote my children. And in the past year, especially in starting this podcast, I have been able to step into things that light me on fire, in being an advocate for women's health and being someone that my daughters will look at in 10 years and say, wow, she was passionate about something, she believed in something, and she did something about it. And I didn't do it at the sacrifice of my family. My kids don't feel the crush of mom's off doing her own thing. They feel loved and connected and excited about what this means for all of us because they see their mom in the time that I'm not changing diapers or making meals or driving to school. They're seeing me work around, still taking care of my family, but really reflecting on what is important to me. Taking the background I have in pharmacy, the healthcare background, getting certified in integrative women's health, and specifically focusing on perimenopause and menopause was a drive to figure out what in the world was going on inside myself, and then recognizing there is so much ignoring, placating, gaslighting going on in the medical community when it comes to women's health. And I was done listening to women telling me that they would go to the doctor's office frustrated by their weight gain, frustrated by their insomnia, this new anxiety, this depression they've never had before, and being told, go to therapy, try some breath work. Maybe you need to be more sexy for your husband, or maybe it's about you that you have a lack of desire or a libido. Maybe it's not the fact that your relationship has taken a hit or your hormones are all over the place. No. It's something you need to work on. Those were things that just drove me so bonkers that I had to step into my own voice and say, enough. So what is it in this life that you are seeing that you're ready to step into? Whether it be an advocacy or starting a business where you see a need or something that you have grown out of or experienced that you can share with other women to help them. How can you turn that into a passion project that serves people? Because I recognize that women who step into their own power become amazing forces for good. It's not just about wealth and power and prestige and notoriety. It's about doing good. It's about impacting lives. And so while I still value impacting my daughters and their life, I want to make an impact on a greater scale for all the women feeling the same things. So that's why I created this podcast. That's why I created the Women Mastering Midlife community, because there are so many of us who need to be heard, who need to step out of their role of wife and mom and say, I feel like I'm falling apart inside and no one's helping me. Or I feel like I'm a burden to my family when I'm experiencing this and I can't share this with them, but I feel dead inside and I have to find a way to find myself again. Recently, I was going through some boxes in the garage and I came across a binder of that a friend had made for me. It was a notebook. I was leaving the University of Georgia and going to pharmacy school in St. Louis, and my roommate had a surprise party for me, and she had put together this book, and it was a "We Will Miss You" book, and she collected letters from all of my friends and all of our apartment mates and neighbors and people that I've crossed paths with for the year and a half that I was at Georgia. And in reading them, I remembered myself. I remembered pre-married Vicky. I remembered pre-mom Vicky. And I miss parts of her. There's parts of me that have grown and matured beyond what I was when I was that age. But there's parts of me that I want back. And now is my time to bring them back and to reconnect and remember who I was before I let my expected role take over. So I hope in listening to this episode, I'm keeping it brief. I could go on, you know me, I get on my soapbox and I could go on and on forever. But I want you to be reflecting on the things in your life that you are resonating with in this episode. What about your 20-year-old self that you want to bring back? Obviously not all of it. I mean, I was reckless and impulsive and, didn't really understand what real responsibility was when I was in college. But that fun, that caring, that excited about new things, that ability to appreciate the colors of fall, just all those things about me that people gravitated to that I might have pushed aside or muted for the benefit of others. I'm done with that. So what are you done with? So until next week, keep rewriting your rules, keep stepping into your power, keep using your voice. Think about a course you could take to learn something new, or a friend you haven't connected with in a while that you want to reconnect with, or a part of your community that you see a need and they could really use your service. And think about how you can keep mastering midlife on your terms.